Please take a picture with me.
I happily hugged the kid in my arms, but suddenly, a guy from nowhere appeared and hid behind me.
Where did he go?
I'm really sorry for this. His sudden action caught me off guard. By the time I turned around, he had transformed into Poseidon.
Say cheese!
Even though the picture turned out kinda weird, we managed to fool those scary pursuers. Hiya! Do you want to listen to the love story of a mermaid? My dad used to own this aquarium, so I was named Ariel after the famous Disney princess of the sea. But everything changed drastically after he passed away when I turned 16. Fortunately, my dad's best friend, Mr. Tillman, and his daughter Pat welcomed me into their home. He even helped me manage the aquarium my dad left behind. Back to the story of when I met that strange guy at the aquarium. As soon as the man in black left, he introduced himself as Dan. He even offered to repay me for my help.
I'll do anything you want.
Great, my back is about to break, so please help me feed the fish. Thank you. Dan reluctantly took the bucket of fish and warily approached the water tank. Suddenly, Pat arrived. Here you are, Ariel. Isn't that Dan? Wait! Pat quickly grabbed his shirt, which accidentally caused him to lose his balance and fall into the fish tank. Oh crap! Help! The critical situation didn't allow me a moment to think, so I just dived in headfirst to rescue him. Just as he was about to sink to the bottom, I gave him the last bit of air in my mouth and pushed him upwards. Quick, Ariel! I'll take care of him! Go get some help! I quickly ran away, and only 5 minutes later, I returned with some helpers, but oddly, there was no one there. Huh? Where did Pat take him? In the end, I tiredly went back home alone. As soon as I got home, Mr. Tillman excitedly showed me an invitation card.
Look, Ariel, we're invited to the Burson's dinner.
It took me a moment to remember that Mr. Burson was our town mayor, but why was such a powerful family interested in us?
It was all thanks to Pat for saving Dan, the only son of the Burson's family.
Dan? The one I jumped in to save? Ariel, I didn't mean to steal your credit. It's just... It turned out that Pat had a crush on Dan ever since they first met on his father's inauguration day. When he woke up, because he was so shaken, Pat reassured him that she had saved him. Even so, you shouldn't have lied. Please, Ariel, you don't like Dan the way I do. For me, it was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Please help me. While I was still disturbed, Mr. Tillman sadly sat down on the table.
Stop it, Pat. Even though we've been taking care of Ariel for 4 years, you shouldn't bother her like that.
Ugh, when he put it like that, suddenly it didn't matter who saved Dan. He was safe after all. I decided to let Pat take my credit. The next day, we went to Burson's mansion together for dinner. Soon, my husband will be away to open a fair to promote the town. Pat, do you want to stay here with me during that time? Maybe you and Dan will get closer after this. Suddenly, Dan turned to me.
It'll be only me and my mom here. I'm afraid Pat might be bored. How about you stay here with us too?
Me? Ouch!
Yep, you saved me from bad guys at the aquarium, so I want to thank you too.
With the enthusiasm of Dan and his mother, I hesitantly agreed. The next morning, after Pat and I temporarily moved in with the Bursons, Dan invited us to spend some leisure time in his garden. Just so you know, I'm the best at drawing portraits.
Wow, let's have a friendly competition then. Ariel, can you model for us?
In just an hour, they finished and called me over to look. Pat's drawing is so beautiful. But Dan, why do I have a smudge on my nose in your painting?
'Cause you look exactly like that.
Then he smeared a red stain on my nose. Not backing down, I immediately wiped the color from the painting board and put it on his face. That looks like you more. We kept splashing colors on each other until I tripped and fell into his lap. Our eyes met for a second. Will you two stop? Pat's irritated voice quickly separated me and Dan. Then she quickly dragged me back to my room. Did you do that on purpose? Panicked, I held her hand and promised to never see Dan alone again, but she pushed my hand away. While doing so, she accidentally pushed the fish tank next to me to the floor. What the hell? Don't you know that I'm allergic to— Immediately, she covered her mouth as if she had just blurted out a secret. She immediately pushed me out of the room. You better keep your promise. That kept me thinking, could Pat be allergic to salt water? The next day, Dan took us to the aquarium for a surprise.
Ladies, I've just bought moonfish to display here. It'd definitely attract more customers.
While Pat was fervently praising his idea, I was extremely furious. Why would you keep such rare fish imprisoned? They belong to the sea. Shut up, Ariel! You know nothing! Dan just wants to help this boring aquarium! If my dad was still alive, he would never have agreed to this. I angrily opposed her, causing the atmosphere between us to become even more tense. Seeing that, Dan quickly intervened.
Actually, Ariel is right. Don't worry, I'll reconsider it.
It made Pat even angrier. When I walked past her, she even tripped me and almost made me fall into the fish tank. Dan pulled me back in time and... Wow, why was my heart beating so fast? All of a sudden, he held his head in pain. Pat quickly pushed me away from him. Why are you so careless? Then she took him away, leaving me standing there alone thinking about the kiss just now. After that, I took a quick shower and hoped that I could wash away my feelings for Dan. When I came out, I saw Pat in my room. Pat, what are you doing? I just want to apologize for this afternoon. Please don't be mad at me. I beamed happily. I knew our friendship wouldn't be broken so easily. I gotta bounce now. See ya, Ariel. Knowing that we had made up, I happily went to bed. Wait, where was the necklace I left here earlier? It's my dad's last memento. I looked for it for the whole night until...
Ariel, I need to tell you something.
I didn't notice that Dan was behind me and it was already morning. I turned around and he panicked when he saw my face.
Did you sleep at all?
No, I'm looking for a necklace. Before I could finish, Dan's mother and Pat hastily arrived and yelled in panic. Dan, we have a big problem. The oxygen generator in the aquarium was broken. This necklace was found inside. Ariel, isn't that yours? Why could you ruin everything the Burson family prepared? What? How did it get stuck in there? I lost it last night. But no matter how I explained it, no one believed me except Dan.
I saw her looking for that necklace all night. Maybe.
You don't need to defend her. She must take responsibility for her actions. So, I was immediately kicked out by Pat and Mrs. Burson. In the taxi back home, I tried to remember what happened last night. That's it. Pat must have dived in to break the oxygen generator. That's why she got the rash. Having understood everything, I was shocked that she was willing to go that far to kick me out of the Burson house. I must show everyone her true face. That night, I called Pat to the beach and asked Dan to take his mother to a nearby place. As soon as she saw me, Pat immediately put on a fake smile. The Bursons decided to forgive you. You rolled in with me after all. You can stop pretending, Pat. I already know you're the real culprit. At first, she was shocked to hear that, but soon she burst out laughing and changed her attitude immediately. You think Mrs. Burson will believe you, or the person who saved her son? Aren't you ashamed? We've been living together for 4 years like a family. You think my dad and I really want to live with you? She snickered and said that her dad adopted me, only because he wanted to take over my dad's aquarium. Unbelievable. I angrily pushed her towards the sea. Ouch, you idiot! Don't you know I'm allergic to salt water? Just as Pat was about to attack me, Dan stopped her. Mrs. Burson also sent her man to arrest that lying snake.
I've always trusted you because I thought you saved me. I didn't expect you to be full of poop.
After that, Pat was sued by the Bursons for vandalism and was even forbidden to go near them. To compensate me, Dan's mother hired a lawyer to reclaim my right of the aquarium from Mr. Tillman. Dan also agreed to return the moonfish back to the sea. Since then, my relationship with him has also gone up a notch.